From crucial mistakes not to make, to understanding a little bit more about the journey of a Fiverr-inclined artist, diving into doll making in my 16th year, 2024 was a year of extreme upheaval, challenges, and very sweet moments. This is everything I made in 2024 and what I learned through it. Welcome to Fig and Me in 2025. My name is Fabiola, though everyone calls me Favs. And I hope you're in for this long video where I will show you what happened to us, to my business and my creative output during 2024. The beginning of the year found us living in Canada, but in late 2023, we applied for visas to relocate to Portugal temporarily. My daughters are entering their young adult years, and we wanted to give them the opportunity to travel with Portugal as a base, so they get to visit many countries at a much lower cost than flying in and out of Canada, which is cost prohibitive these days, especially for young folks. I won't bore you with the enormous amount of work this entailed, the heartache of losing our beloved dog while we were in Portugal, making arrangements to come back to Canada and bring her with us, the trials of dealing with immigration officials and enrolling our daughters in school, finding and furnishing a new abode, buying a car, locating a gym, learning to live in a completely different culture and time zone. That's perhaps for another time. Lesson 1. Prepare for chaos, even when you somewhat anticipate it. While we knew we might be leaving Canada for a period of time during the year, we didn't anticipate the visas would be ready so fast, that we would need to go to Portugal right away, and most of all, that we would be unable to come back until much later than our original schedule. We received our visas in January and started scheming travel dates for the beginning of March. I opened custom spots for the year, as I normally do at the beginning of every year. While making all our travel arrangements, I finally published a blog with the last doll of 2023, Miss Honor, as I was putting the finishing touches on a doll that I had been working on what felt like forever. No complaints. Little Chadwick, but we call him Chad. Honor had the pleasure of a full blog on Patreon, going over the techniques and processes I used to design doll clothing for my dolls, while Chad taught me so very much about doll construction with joints and armatures, especially at his magnificent size. He's 28 inches tall. The biggest by far doll I have ever made. It was an epic achievement to have created him, and I felt so honored, truly, that my darling customer requested a brother to her other doll from me. I always feel very happy when I send dolls to a home where I know they will be welcomed by their Fig and Me siblings. Just about here, I felt the sudden need to make some adorable wee baby valentines, if for no other reason that I was feeling a bit exhausted from working on such an intense doll such as Chadwick, and needed something much easier on my hands. Those wee baby dolls do warm my heart. Lesson 2. Try to vary the intensity level in your work. I say, schedule some easy or much simpler work after tackling a big and intense project. I see it as a way to come gently off a big creative wave. Rest is important, of course, but don't go straight into another big project. Have some sort of creative lull in between. You're still making, but you're not going all out. Just before leaving Canada, I managed to create a little family of Easter lambs with their cozy egg backpacks. I truly hope I can make some again this year because I had so much fun wet felting the eggs and have some cunning ideas to try it next time. We arrived in Portugal in March and stayed in Losa to begin with, where I spent the last few weeks with my adorable Elizabeth Bennett. There's already a video here about her, so you can go and check her out. Elizabeth opened a wide door into the literary characters of my childhood and teenage years. Normally, I try to stay away creating dolls in such characters because I have way too many dolls already dancing in my head, but it was quite nice to have defined parameters to create a doll, especially one I knew so closely from having read Pride and Prejudice myself. Therefore, I decided to keep touching on this theme throughout the year, creating my interpretation of some favorite characters from special books. So don't be too surprised if this year you see a Mr. Darcy, a Ronya, the Rover's daughter, or even one of my favorite fairy tale girls. Lesson 3. Be adventurous and try things with an open heart. Don't get fixated on the results. I don't like getting close to copyrighted characters for artistic ethic and because I truly enjoy much more making dolls based on my imaginative characters. But I found that creating Elizabeth really expanded my creativity, even though we had a very strong sense of who she was based on the book. After teaching my workshops, which were beautiful creative moments with already quite special people in my life, it was time to set up some sort of makeshift doll making studio, and I had the immense fortune of finding a vintage sewing machine to be my trusted partner in crime. I find that a lot of you think you need a really advanced modern sewing machine to create dolls or intricate doll clothing. And while having them might help if you've already a very accomplished seamstress, I really see no fault in my cast iron sewing horse. She's not only beautiful but sturdy, and I love knowing that so many other hands have worked their own magic through her, perhaps sewing pillowcases for the family or repairing farm clothes for the hardworking men, or maybe creating beautiful gifts and heirloom pieces too. She has a few quirks, but nothing too bad, and she has the most beautiful stitching I've ever seen. I love her. Lesson 4. If life obliges you to go back to humbler beginnings, you might find there's nothing really that hard about it. You might even have fun. After all, that's probably where you started. Sewing with my Janot machine is truly a blessing of efficiency, and sewing with the Husqvarna seems more involved, but in a good way. I feel she's more my partner. We make decisions and work together. While sewing with the Janot machine, I am almost reverent and a bit too confident because she's such a master and can handle fussy details with ease. The first doll to be made and get clothes from this beauty was Miss Cora. You can also find her here on the channel. I've already published a video about her. Cora was a breath of fresh air, invoking dreams of heirloom sewing details in her clothes. I had so much fun crafting her wardrobe that I even taught a summer workshop while I made her dress. And striking while the iron is hot, so to speak, this year I will dive into teaching and making another doll dress sewn with heirloom techniques via my tutorial tier on Patreon. Speaking of workshops, my darling patrons requested a few interesting summer workshops last year. Seeing I was somehow stuck in Portugal for the time being, while my husband and one of our daughters were back in Canada, they came up with a lovely arrangement of weekend instruction to get busy with. I created 3 new doll making workshops, teaching my eager students how to articulate doll heads, at least the way I do it, how to create knee or arm joints using wooden beads, and how to sew a beautiful doll dress with heirloom sewing techniques. They also requested a beginner doll workshop on how to make dollhouse dolls, but those had to be turned into full-fledged online classes, which I created early in the fall. So I guess another lesson learned last year, what to do when you're running a business and you see yourself without the supplies you normally create with. Lesson 5, if life throws you lemons. I didn't have the usual cornucopia of doll making supplies, nor my serger, yarns, doll hair, etc. So instead, I turned to teaching online for the time being. I got into so much mischief that by the time the supplies arrived back from Canada, I was in top shape to tackle dolls galore. Pivoting can be uncomfortable. Having nimble feet is what keeps you in business in this very trying world. So my best advice to you is to not feel discouraged when life gets messy. See it as an opportunity to try something else, learn something new. Investigate this shift in your life and try to have fun while you're at it, because unless you do it, who else is? Working on that website or your branding or develop a new product. You now have time while things are slow in other arenas. I was finally ready to tackle a precious doll for sale. All of my dolls so far had been custom dolls, except for the crazy wee babies, which do keep me busy and entertained in the studio. I chose again a mannequin because I find them incredibly inspiring at the moment, and revisiting the whole literary people thing, this time we chose an author, Mary Shelley. She had her very own little rag doll named Frankie, which I made using linen I naturally dyed myself over the summer. Our new home has lots of fruit trees, and we're surrounded by well-tended gardens, vegetable plots, and bits of Portuguese forest, so naturally the plant dyer gets to work. I dyed Frankie's cloth with walnut leaves that my husband procured, trying to tame one of the massive walnut trees in the yard. Other experiments with dyes this summer happened with persimmon leaves and our time-tested avocado stones. Unbeknownst to me, we achieved the beautiful colors of the dry hydrangeas in my studio. Once Miss Mary and Frankie found a home, we were neck-deep in online class shenanigans, teaching a beginner doll class and preparing the content for the Dollhouse family class. I'm so happy I took the leap and listened to the suggestions of my patrons and created these 2 new classes. Sometimes you can get so deep into the weeds, alone and in your own little doll world, that you forget most people do not have either the time nor inclination to be so doll dramatic. And it served me wonders to create a beginner doll class using one of my first published doll patterns, the little fig. I updated the pattern and the way to make the doll, and the reviews and comments I've received from the students who took the online class are very reassuring. I shall continue paying attention to my patrons and constantly polling them as to what content, classes, or workshops they would like me to create. Lesson 6. Step a little outside of your cozy corner and listen to the world. It might give you great ideas. Sometimes as artists, we like to be selfish and create only what our muse tells us. After all, we are in deep connection with our creative well. But I think you can be very successful in listening to the masses. Maybe not the actual masses, as that would be too rowdy for me, but listening to suggestions from others on the same path as you are. You will see your creative output under a different angle and see your corner of the making world more comprehensively. This is incredibly helpful, both as a creator and as a business owner. Speaking of polling, I conducted a poll late in the fall, requesting some ideas regarding the workshops I should teach at the upcoming Udor event in the Netherlands next May. Once again, my Patreon friends did not disappoint. Based on their feedback, I opened pre-registration for 3 workshops: making Miss Teacup, a 10-inch tall articulated doll with wooden beads, sculpting a doll face, an advanced workshop to learn how to sculpt more realistic doll faces, and doll making as a business. To go over everything I think you should get penned down if you want to treat this craft as your creative business. This last workshop comes with a little session of constructive feedback in your doll work, so you can hear my point of view regarding quality, design, etc. on your natural fiber art dolls. Overall, I'm extremely satisfied and excited to be teaching these workshops in the late spring, and I'm already looking forward to full enrollment happening in March. Once I taught the doll classes with my initial method of holding weekend meetings via Zoom, I moved all the class content to my Dollmaking Academy so that many other students can enroll on those classes and learn at their own pace without having to wait for me to teach the class in real time again. This on-demand system allows me to share what I know and encourage you on your learning journey. The only figlet I made all year was Mr. Roman, another custom doll and part of a little doll family I started creating back in 2020. He was the final doll of this sibling group, and I felt a little wistful knowing I was completing such a long labor of love. I cherish the experience of bringing all these children to doll form, and they represent them at a very special time in their life. The year was running away with my best intentions, and I got to work mad and furious making a family of baby deers and reindeers for your wintry holidays, as well as making 3 little minifigs inspired by the Nutcracker, that literary theme again, and my last 3 custom dolls of the year. I was closing 2024 with so many projects mid-step, with umpteen ideas waiting to be realized, and with an epic series on Patreon about drafting a doll pattern from scratch. Sometimes when I write my end-of-year assessment, I always shake my head in disbelief How is it possible that all this gets done in one short year? Is it really true? I made all these dolls, taught all these workshops and classes, traveled, put together a new studio, filmed all these tutorials and blogs for Patreon, wrote all these story blogs and share all these videos. How? Lesson 7. Organize your life and work based on your energy shifts, not on the day of the week or an external schedule. I find it incredibly hard to make spring dolls when there are mountains of snow outside, or make Halloween-inspired creatures midsummer. But having a product-based business and shipping dolls all over the world, sometimes this can't be helped if one wants the dolls to be mailed in time. Maybe one way to get behind that is work lots of months in advance. Make the Halloween dolls in October, but for the next year. I am not that organized, to be honest, but if you do need fall colors to get in the mood, that might be your only solution. What I try to do is organize my schedule based on the energetic shifts in my day and overall life. I know I require a certain kind of energy to produce very creative work that must be filmed, like tutorials or classes. So I mentally prepare to do that kind of work at a certain time of the day. I know early mornings is when I write best. So scripts, newsletters, and doll stories all get written in the early morning. I normally don't photograph dolls until after 6 p.m. So I have to wait and remember to go outside to do it. I know I love the needle felt when I have quiet all around me. So I choose to do it while my girls are in school. Sewing must be done with good light too, especially eye embroidery. I don't do it at night anymore. Editing videos, for example, is something I can do at any time of the day, and it takes me ages, so I break it down over a few days, sometimes weeks. I try to be as professional as I can, putting my best foot forward, but I don't strive for perfection. With the dolls, what I do is strive for excellence, trying my very best to create a doll that is not just very well made or beautiful, but a doll with substance, with a real weight to her, with something in her that truly calls out to you. This is why my dolls take me so long to make, and why I always like to write a lot about them. It suits me. With everything else, I just do my very best. I don't sweat the semantics. This means that sometimes I send newsletters or write blogs with spelling errors, or I use the same photos on Instagram. No harm done. Next time, I'll do better. There's always room for improvement. My job is continually challenging, teaching me new techniques as I plod along trying to achieve new looks or create original work. So I have to be patient to learn slowly, and I have to give me some grace. I do the work of 7 people, so I can't be too harsh with myself if I drop the ball every now and then, can I? Now, operating in 2 countries is bound to bring a whole new level of madness in my life, and I'm here for the right friends. Thank you for cheering me on along the ride of my life. If you're interested in watching how I organize my doll year, you can watch this video. If you want to learn more miniature makes and dressmaking for your dolls, please join us on Patreon. We're going to have so much fun over there this year. Thank you so much for watching my 2024 retrospective, and see you in the next one. Bye.